Hello and welcome to Dies to Removal, the Magic the Gathering video podcast. Now, thanks to the global pandemic and COVID-19, many Magic the Gathering players were afraid that we were not going to be able to hold any more episodes of Dies to Removal during this crisis. But thanks to a little cleverness on our part, mostly mine, we've come up with a foolproof way to keep this show on the air every week. Isn't that right, Vincent?
Yes! That's right.
Brian!
That's right.
Brian!
Yes!
No pandemic is going to stop us.
Well,
At least it's taken my mind off of...
Brexit.
Oh, Vince, you and your European politics.
Brexit! 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 Brexit!
Same old Vince. Now, Vince, we're here to talk about magic. What's been on your mind lately?
Hybrid mana? Hybrid mana? Hybrid mana? Fetch land. Reserve list. Kitchen finks. Milk! Milk me harder, daddy.
Keep it PG, Vince.
Milk! Milk! Reprint fetch
No,
lands.
uh-oh.
Why won't they? Why won't they? Bloody Tories. Sheldon Meanery hates hybrid mana. Hi, my name is Reserve List. Reprint fetch lands, you cowards. Hybrid mana? Hybrid mana? Hybrid mana?
Oh no! New Vince got stuck in a loop about hybrid mana and his head rolled right out of the room. Just like regular Vince. Hello?
Brian, oh good. I'm glad I caught you. I've just finished playing my 7th Yorion mirror in a row on Arena and, well, I need to vent to somebody. Can we not record Dice to Removal remotely or something?
I suppose that is our only option at this point. So what do you want to talk about on the show this week?
Well, we could talk about the lack of meaningful reprints, especially when it comes to fetch lands. I could complain about that all day long. Companions is also a hot button topic, but we could also talk about hybrid mana and commander, although that might be a little bit too political. So failing that, perhaps the Tory party and Brexit here in the UK? No, perhaps not. Fetch lands? No. Hybrid mana? Oh, companions? I can't decide. I've got so much to moan about. Brexit! Brexit!
Oh, Vince, there's just no replacing you. At least not yet.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Dies to Removal, a special remote episode where I am in sunny old, really hot and sweaty England, and Brian is over in where are you from? The States? The New World? Something like that?
Teleria East.
Oh, Teleria East, right, he never stops role-playing. We were considering doing an episode about, like, remote playing and magic still being the gathering and such during such hard times. But we realised that probably wasn't the most exciting thing to talk about.
I mean, why talk about togetherness, community, loyalty, and unity, ways in which you can survive this terrible global crisis that has affected all of us, when we can spend an entire hour speculating about whether or not Magic the Gathering booster packs are really loot boxes and also rag on secret layers. I mean, come on. So that's what we're going to be doing. Is Magic the Gathering gambling? I mean, that's really why they don't acknowledge the secondary market, right? Why don't we start with that? Why Wizards of the Coast does know about the secondary market. They do talk about it within their walls secretly. They are aware of it, but they must not publicly acknowledge it. Many Magic the Gathering players ask why. Why can't they just acknowledge, yeah, people sell Magic cards individually for money. They can't ever acknowledge it. Vince, why?
So, there's a lot of, I guess, guesswork that goes around this, because they've never explicitly said this is the reason, but it's quite easy to infer what the reason is when you start looking at other areas, which we'll come to shortly. But if they acknowledge that things have a monetary value within the packs that they open, it opens up a whole can of worms, perhaps even a real, true, legal court case can of worms around whether or not buying that pack and having the odds of getting X, Y, or Z over another card is gambling. Because it's like getting a lottery ticket, right? Instead of just buying a pack to get some collectible cards you can play a nice casual game of kitchen magic with, you're actually trying to go for that money rare. The irony, the funny thing is, you and I both know, Brian, that's what people do. Of
course.
Magic cards. People crack packs. They shouldn't for singles. Buy your singles. Don't crack packs to find specific cards. But people love cracking boosters. I like cracking boosters. I assume you quite like cracking boosters.
I just cracked on my channel a booster pack of Revised and Legends the week before that, and I gotta admit, I might be saying with my mouth in those videos, don't do this, this is not something you should do, but I was getting that dopamine rush in the brain. So, yes, but there's even something more dangerous about it, which is that or more legally suspect about it, which is that it's not just that we're selling lottery packs with a chance to win money. It's that Wizards of the Coast controls the means to print the money, because they are if they are able to set the price of cards, which they are not. But if they were, then they could literally determine, well, we're going to put a $100 bill in this pack and say you get a chance at a $100 bill. But when other people set the prices, it's a little bit like that. So they can't acknowledge the secondary market. They literally have to say, and I've had Wizards of the Coast people say around me that the premise is, what? People sell Magic cards for money? What? I haven't heard of that. I don't know that. We're just selling a game. It's just a game. Mm-hmm. It's just 15 cards. You are getting 15 individual cards randomly put in a pack for the purposes of playing a game, and that is not gambling. Gambling is if there's a monetary value or incentive involved. And yet this is all fiction because, of course, whether they acknowledge it or not, they know about it, and they do play to that because they have established that the value that you and I and all of us in this community place on these cards does affect what they put in the booster packs. They are not going to put $100 cards en masse in reprints in a set. They're going to put maybe one moderate reprint in a set. They're not going to, if they're putting 10 reprints in a set, 9 of them are 10-cent, 20-cent cards, and then one of them is worth a lot of money.
So let's talk quickly then about Wizards of the Coast and how they don't acknowledge, but they perhaps skirt around the fact, or some of the nods they make towards these things. The obvious one being fetch lands, which we'll come to perhaps the next
fetch
one.
Lands and secret layers. We'll get to that.
But there was a thing I come across when we were doing some reading for this episode, which was a link to Mark Rosewater's Tumblr, which we can show on screen now.
Right.
It shows that he explicitly says, when asked why was Tarmogoyf mythic rare in the original Modern Masters set, he says it's not to underpin or undermine the value of that card of people who already had it. Now, I just sat there and scratched my head and I was like, what value is he referring to? Is he on about like the collectability? Is this that Wizards of the Coast will admit there is a collectible element to the rarity of cards? How do you respond to that idea that like they can put things at mythic to maintain or not undermine the value? Because that's so close to saying the card has a monetary secondary market value.
Well, I think that it's okay for them to acknowledge that cards are collected by players. The issue is monetary value. So I guess this comes down to speculation versus gambling, perhaps, because gambling is called, I'm going to spend $5, or in the case of Modern Masters, $10, $12 on a booster pack, and I'm hoping to get more than that money in return. Versus, I'm going to spend $4, $10 on a booster pack, play a game, and maybe those game pieces in the future might be a collectible item. Nothing wrong with I'm going to sell you this product and say, maybe this is a collectible and maybe this will go, it's not guaranteed to go up in value, but maybe people will value this in the future. That's fine. But the issue is called hit me again, and I'm going to keep ripping open these packs until I get the $100 bill, which is, of course, what people do. But this is the legal game they play. And that quote by Rosewater, there's a lot of those out there, not just by him, but by Wizards, where when they're trying to communicate with the player base, they are trying to maybe wink at us to let us know what's going on, while still staying perfectly within the confines of the law. But I think it comes down to this, is that if the only reason you buy a booster pack is to get the money, then that is straight up gambling, or to get the Tarmogoyf. And so the emphasis is on they are not selling us the packs and saying you might get a Tarmogoyf inside, even though it's on the pack and on the box and on all the advertising and all of that. But the idea is the purpose is to play the game. And then maybe there's things that we, independent of them, collect and value.
Beyond the legal aspect of
which is all baloney. And I just want to stress, everybody is screaming at us right now as though we don't believe this. We're talking about to keep governments from saying you are not only encouraging gambling in children and adults, but you are also printing money in, and that goes into issues with the judge program where they used to pay their judges in magic cards. Yeah. That we'll talk about in a moment too, but anyway.
Yeah.
Yes.
But the collectability thing is still suspect. Not from a legal perspective, because obviously the whole point of not saying a card is worth any money is they don't want to go to a court of law and have to argue about whether or not people are cracking packs for money, right? But if we step away from the legal side of things towards the ethical or perhaps moral side of things, is it not still borderline predatory to be like, you can collect all these things, but some of them are super, super rare, because it still ticks the same boxes. It still gets the endorphins going to promote people to crack more and more packs. Surely, even without monetary value, there's still a suspect element to collecting out of randomized boosters.
To say otherwise is absurd. If anybody is, and I bet you cash now, now, I'm taking 5-to-1 odds on this, that there will be some responses on Twitter in particular to this episode, and there will be people arguing that this is not the case, and they will have hashtag MTG Finance on their Twitter handle, no doubt, because anytime any of this talk comes up, that is impacting them, and they are going to be like, that's baloney, because that's their bread and butter. But of course, this is predatory. I mean, it is. Of course, this is taking advantage of people's weaknesses. We know, if you subscribe to the philosophy of science, we know that there are in the same way that there are people who are predisposed to be more susceptible to things such as alcohol consumption and abuse, that gambling is a real issue. There are people who if you put them in, I've been to Las Vegas and I don't personally gamble, but there are people who not only would gamble but would not be able to stop because of certain provable, demonstrable psychological reasons, and that to prey on them is morally suspect. To literally say, we should make this addictive. We should make this so that you want to keep cracking packs. We should make this so that you keep spending the money.
In general, then
I'm not. And here's the thing. I want to, and I'll tell you why, but I'm going to ask you this question. I get this on all my videos. I don't know if you do, but I get this on so many videos. Are Magic the Gathering booster packs synonymous with, or certainly close to, loot boxes that we talk about with, like, I don't know, what little Call of Duty or any of these. Is it Call of Duty? I don't play those games, all right? I don't like war simulators.
A small amount of context. Brian doesn't like any popular culture that isn't Magic, it seems. But on top of that, Call of Duty does have loot boxes, as most of you probably watching this video probably know, but we'll do a little bit of context.
Right.
Loot boxes came into the gaming industry on full force. Probably the most popular or the most well-publicized first initial big loot box thing was Blizzard with Overwatch.
Okay.
And since then they've refined things and changed things in certain territories and stuff. And since then, because loot boxes have been such a good way to monetize your game post-release, whether you're buying a big £40 game initially or playing a free-to-play thing, because randomized loot boxes are so good at, like, getting those cogs whirring, getting people spending money, like every game under the sun has them. So as Brian said, Call of Duty, it has it. But like the other big ones, in England, FIFA, our football game, our soccer game, is massive. It has a card game attached to it, Brian, called Ultimate Team, where you crack packs for cards.
Wow.
We'll come to that in a little bit as well. Yeah, it's pretty special. I got into it when it first got released because I was like, the cards are cool. I didn't care about the football. It pushed that
little button in your brain, didn't it?
It ticked some like primordial thing inside me. And then the other big one, I guess, is Star Wars Battlefront, is a big one to talk about.
I heard about that one in particular. Even though I don't play Star Wars or watch Star Wars or whatever, it was such a big scandal, an issue that it penetrated my rock that I live under, and I heard about that one as well. And I think there's a huge difference between DLC, which is content like for a video game that you're playing, and let's say that there is armor or costumes or cosmetics of some sort that you wish to purchase to have on your character for extra money. But a loot box will take that cosmetic and it'll say, here's the really cool outfit that everybody wants, or the skin for their weapon, or what have you, that everybody is just dying for, and we're going to put it in a treasure chest, and then we're going to put a whole bunch of less desired items randomly in there, and you spend $1, $2, $4 on that treasure chest and open it up to see if you got the very rare or mythic, we should say, cosmetic skin. And if you did not, which you probably didn't, then you just push a button and spend another $4 and do so. And it's right at that point that you go, well, isn't that a booster pack of Magic cards? So I'll ask again, Vince, do you believe that booster packs are loot boxes?
No. There's a multitude of reasons. I just want to, before we go on, just say that video games used to come as whole cohesive things that you bought for a certain amount of money.
I remember.
And then what happened with DLC, like horse armor for Oblivion was the one that I remember. It was Oblivion that I remember originally. To get the armor for your horse, you had to pay an extra £6 or whatever on Xbox Live, and everyone was like, "This is absurd." But then everyone just bought it anyway. And we just carry on. So it got to where we had games. It's the whole cow thing. We've talked about this on the podcast before for Magic, where they take things out you already had,
right?
Cheat codes, extra armors, extra levels, different skins.
I purchased.
And they sell them back to you.
I purchased for The Sims 3, and I can't believe I'm publicly admitting this. Every part of my brain is saying, don't say this publicly. But I purchased for The Sims 3 so that my character could in The Sims 3 have it, a Prius, so that, they had certain cars. They had certain cars that you get in The Sims, and but for like $2, they'd install the option for a Prius.
It just went to somewhere.
That's
bizarre.
right. A Prius for The Sims.
So
I purchased
The
the
Sims
skin
is a good
to have
example
a
of this.
Prius.
Before we move on, right? The Sims 1 and 2 had swimming pools. The Sims 3, upon release, had no swimming pool, but it was available within 3 weeks to buy as an add-on.
God.
It's the whole taking things away. And we've had this with Expeditions. We talked about it on this podcast. Where they're taking things away and selling them back to us. Now, the Expedition thing is interesting because there's an argument that putting lottery cards like that in boosters pushes the odds towards them being gambling products even further. So it might be one of the arguments where they're like, oh, we probably should shy away from that.
But there's odds. There's odds to pulling a mythic. There's odds to pulling a rare or pulling the mythic or rare that you want. Oh my god! And I'm seriously just thinking of this now. It's not in my notes. Is this why Wizards can't seem to wean themselves of the habit of there always being a pathetic mythic? And several pathetic mythics and a really good mythic, so that they could say, wait a minute, our mythic card, that one's 40 cents. That one is Tree of Redemption. You're not just trying to get them. We're not creating the mythic card as the money card. Some of these mythics aren't worth anything. We don't know what people do. Is that intentional? Are they really not stupid? I just thought they were stupid.
So one way it does allow them to go, well, no, not all mythics are worth money, and they've all got the equal chance of getting them. But on the other hand, it also gives people opening up the mythic and going, oh, I didn't get the one I wanted or needed, so they crack more packs for the Oko or whatever the next packs are. It still serves dual purpose. One for a hypothetical court of law, and one to get people just cracking more packs. There's the argument, isn't there? Why are bad cards printed, right? Why are bad cards made? And bad cards make good cards, right? Cards don't exist in a vacuum. They've got to compare to each other. But that doesn't just exist in terms of power level. That exists in terms of desirability. And then furthermore, the secondary market, right? Tree of Redemption exists to make Goyf more valuable. Because if everyone was opening Goyf-style cards or Goyf power-level cards or the reprints that we all want, like fetch lands, then we wouldn't need the Tree of Redemptions and stuff. The bad cards exist to push the secondary market agenda as well.
No, it's because the point of the set was to reprint the most iconic cards from each set. And when you think of original Innistrad, regardless of the value, you think of Tree of Redemption. In a snap, you're going to cast that card from Beyond the Veil. I mean, you're just that.
It gives me flashbacks in some ways. To Innistrad,
and yet,
that card being sad.
And yet, you say that they're not loot boxes. It just sounds like you're describing loot boxes with extra steps.
So, in my mind, loot boxes don't give you a monetary valuable thing that you can sell on. Right? That's in my mind. That's not the literal definition. Like, Counter-Strike Go is another good example of this. That game has crates that you open skins, that you mentioned, for your knives and for your guns, and they sell on the secondary market for tons of money. To the point that Valve don't have a trading market in China or Belgium anymore, because their gambling organizations were like, them having a monetary value, that makes it gambling. So I'm sat here saying it feels less like a loot box, this negative term that's now associated with gaming, because I can sell the cards, and the cards are collectible, and we have physical things left over, and we all like having nice, cool cards, right?
I do.
But a lot of the gambling organizations and agencies around Europe and in China and stuff are like, actually, if it makes it a real-world monetary cost that you can trade, that probably makes it gambling. Or in some countries, they said that is gambling, and you're breaking laws. So it's this weird thing. In my head, it feels like it's not. But in other countries, that's not the difference between loot boxes and other randomized things.
So I feel like it is a loot box with an asterisk on it. I feel like it's a loot box, but. So when I get those comments about it's just a loot box, like, for example, if in any video I make a disparaging remark about loot boxes, people go, well, how can you support booster packs? And I'll say, well, here's one of the key differences. One of the key differences, as I already mentioned, is that it's a cosmetic skin in, say, the video games, and that's just this useless thing towards the game versus cards that are a part of the game, that are a part of what you can play with, and so it has another function. You also mentioned that we can trade them. I'm pretty sure all the most terrible of those loot box games would not allow me to trade those skins. Is that correct? I don't know. I don't play those. I couldn't give you my Prius. I know that. I couldn't give you my Prius from The Sims.
The ones that have caused the most amount of problems in countries like Counter-Strike Go, you can trade stuff.
Okay, so they have that value there. But I would also say that a big factor is that pushing a button on your computer is an act that has a lot less connection to you reaching in your pocket to take out cash money when you're out of your house and at another location. And that there's a huge difference between a little kid who might be playing a game on their parents' computer where an account is hooked in, and it's like, a pop-up screen hits, buy this loot box. You want to buy this loot box? They hit OK, $4. You want to buy another one? Hit OK, $4. Versus I went into my local game store after school. I have my lunch money that I skipped lunch. I really did this, by the way. When I was so addicted to Magic the Gathering that in high school, I starved myself. I skipped lunch. My stomach hurt and growled.
What were you addicted to? Which part of it were you addicted to?
All of it. I was addicted to it, every aspect of that game. The game, the collectability, the socialization, the cracking of packs gave me an endorphin rush I've never been able to recreate, even in all these years of cracking packs. It was the most me thing. It was for me. It was made for me, this game. And so I literally skipped one of my 3 meals a day until I got a job, and it motivated me to get a job eventually. But it meant something going into the store, reaching in my pocket, putting the money on the counter to buy the next pack. And I would spend all of that money, but it feels like there's a big difference between that and me spending my lunch money on it versus clicking the button.
You are right. So there's a lot of psychological elements that games are implementing now, video games in general, that are designed to disconnect the idea of purchase to what you're doing, right? You aren't buying something necessarily, you're obtaining chests and things.
Yes.
And I get what you mean. Take your physical money, buy a booster, get a physical booster, crack that booster, sure. But then what happens when we talk about Arena or Modo, right? And Modo, you can buy packs with tickets. Arena has done what other games have done, where you have other currencies. So in Arena, you have gold that you earn, and you have gems that you buy. But what the gems do, instead of just letting you buy a pack for whatever the gem equivalent is, 1,000 gems, what's that? $1, $2? Instead of having a dollar around where you look at it, exactly, you don't know. You can't click, unless you sit there and go back and forth on the screens and look at them, or have a table up on the other screen, you don't know. And that incentivizes you more likely to spend it. You're more likely to think it doesn't matter anymore. And then on top of that, they have things cost, Arena's good for this, I think. A lot of games will have odd numbers. So you'll buy something for like $2.70, leaving you $30 in your wallet, so you have to buy more of this currency, and so on and so on. I don't believe Arena does that. So Arena hasn't got full on. It does.
You cannot. I did this in one of my early videos criticizing the Arena economy, and I was very shocked at how many people defended it. But on the Arena economy, you will always end up. So if I spend $40 on gems and then I use that to buy packs, I will have leftover gems. And I cannot purchase, and I cannot purchase, I can only purchase the gems in their bundles. So I can't say, hey, I just need 63 gems here to round my thing off and finish them. Because they've found in studies that if a person clears out down to 0 gems, they're less likely to buy more. It's like, okay, I spent them. It's like, oh, I've got 14 gems. I need 100 to get a thing. Let me just buy 66 or whatever it is. Okay, that's not good math, but let me just buy whatever it is.
Terrible math.
Let me just buy one. And there you go. They're preying on my bad math skills.
But you're telling me that these boosters aren't loot boxes, but then Arena's doing the same thing with boosters, right?
Well, I would argue that Arena is
different.
coming very close to it being loot boxes.
But they are employing the exact same strategies as other games. But except for the fact that you can't sell the cards for a monetary value, which is one of the things I do like about physical boosters.
Yeah, it's worse. It's worse because there's no trading allowed, no dusting allowed. It's so one-directional. Arena is, I believe, and I've said this before, but I will go right on the record, it is my opinion that the Magic Arena economy does step into the unethical practice from not a legal standpoint, but from a moral standpoint. It is my belief that, not like immoral in there's a wide spectrum of what immoral can mean, but I do believe that, yes, this is bad behavior. They didn't need to do that. They should have had it should be 400 gems for one pack or whatever you want to set it at, and I can purchase and it's 1 penny is 1 gem sort of thing, or $1 is 1 gem. Set it how you want, but we don't know what a booster pack costs in real cash, and they intentionally did it that way, so that you're just thinking in terms of gems.
Penny to gem thing work. They would never do that because that defeats the object of having.
Yeah, how much does 250 gems worth? Yeah. And then when they sell you a sleeve. Oh my God, I can't believe they have sleeves on Arena. It's insane. And when they sell you a sleeve for 255 gems, you have no idea how much money you're spending when you have 1,000 gems in your pocket, but you don't know what the money is. So it's easier to just go, well, whatever, it's fake game money, but it's not because you spent real money to get it in the case of gems. Now you can earn coins. There's no direct correlation. It's intentionally confusing to exploit the customers to a degree. There's always going to be a level of exploitation with companies. Companies need to make money. Companies need to be a company. I will acknowledge and I will accept that. But there's a line that you cross. I believe Arena, in the setup of their economy, they cross that line. And it's one of the biggest turnoffs about Arena on a long list of turnoffs for me is that at the end of the day, it is intentionally exploitative. You mentioned Magic Online. 1 Tix is $1. I might be able to get ticks from MTGO traders or Card Hoarder or whatever for less than $1 or trade it with you. And yes, I can trade ticks. I can say, let me give you a tick. I can't send you gems on Arena either. I can't even do that. We do not have an exchange thing going on. Arena, at least we know. If I say to you, it's 5 ticks, how many dollars is that? $5, you know? And the fact that they intentionally tried to make it so you have no idea how much money you're spending to such an extreme degree, I believe is unethical on Magic Arena. And I can't believe people don't make a bigger fuss about it.
And you're right. Modo is actually, I've sort of corrected myself from what I said. Magic the Gathering Online is actually a lot more genuine and a lot more honest in this respect because you buy packs and things from Wizards for $1 for one event ticket or boosters for actual real money. The event ticket economy only happens in the secondary market, which is ironic really, that they have a marketplace on Magic the Gathering Online where you can buy cards for tickets. It actually exists. Where Arena purposely makes it hazy and purposely makes it difficult to understand. And I think that the fact that you can't trade things in Arena was not necessarily their original want. I would, and this is complete conjecture, but I would hazard to guess that someone on the line at corporate were like, can we do a trading system here? And people are like, well, actually, there's rumblings of controversies around sellable items and trading items. And they're like, oh, do you know what? Let's not do that then. Let's not do that. Because that makes it difficult further down the line, if you see what I mean. And also, it's worked out well for them, right? Because they can just keep you chasing wild cards and opening packs to do it. So it's worked out for monetization.
Yeah, well, my original assumption was that's why they did it. My original assumption was just they did this because it's as exploitive as they could be. But it's interesting, I had not considered that they did this to make it as confusing to the letter of the law. And that's always been their MO, hasn't it? Because they can't make Magic not gambling. We want to gamble, not just in, by the way, we haven't even mentioned tournaments. In a tournament, you pay an entry fee, compete in the tournament, and you might win prizes, in many cases cash prizes. And that is something that, for example, got them kicked out of Germany, which you're going to fill us in on in just one moment. But I just want to say that I did not consider that by making things hazy, it's easier to skirt the law in terms of digital stuff, whereas you can say, look at this, Magic Online. Magic Online is an exact, for all its problems with the interface, Magic Online is an exact recreation of the paper experience. Ticks or dollars, you play like in the same type of events you play at at Friday Night
It's an
Magic at
emulator.
your game store. Legacy League it emulates them exactly. They literally wanted to make Magic digital in that sense. Arena is not this. It has all the cards, all the formats. I can play Pauper. You and I can invent a format with our own rules and play it against one another and even begin to organize those tournaments and things like that. We can do this. We can trade cards, sell cards, buy cards, all of this. And on Arena, it's all one directional in terms of the money flowing from us into the system there, and then it is locked on our account forever. And it's amazing to me. You can't even I can't get you as a gift. I'm going to get Vince a gift of some gems. I'm going to send him some gems.
I'm certain
when he
that will
logs
come.
on.
That feels like that's not there because they haven't put that on their roadmap or told them that they need to do that yet. That will come. That will come, like the gifting thing. But
maybe,
have you ever thought?
But maybe it's just strict
legality.
legality.
How Magic would be better if you could remove the land system as one of these like hypotheticals people talk about. How could you make Magic 2 Electric Boogaloo, right? What if Arena is Magic 2 Electric Boogaloo, but the biggest problem with the Coast River faced is the fear that they might get caught out for gambling and loot boxes. So removing that secondary market element of selling stuff, they're like, haha, we've got it. We've got Magic, we've got the endorphin rush, we've got the gameplay, we've got the strategic element, and we've gotten rid of that scary bugbear that one day might bite us in the arse.
So I agree completely, except they've also acted against their own best interests, I believe, with Secret Layers, which in many ways is them. I actually think there's a very good case to be made for Secret Layers being perhaps them setting themselves up for real legal ramifications. Before we touch on that, though, you did mention that you had looked into why Magic got kicked out of Germany, or rather Magic events. And this is not quite on the gambling aspect of PAX, but tell us about why can't I go to a GP in Germany? Why can't I go to a GP in Germany? I
started trying to look for the exact worded German legislation, but there was huge documents to scroll through and stuff. But looking at just people chatting about it on forums and stuff, the general gist is if you ask for a certain amount of money for entry and offer a certain amount of money at the end as a prize, minors cannot enter. You can't have people below the age of 18 or 21 or whatever they class as in Germany enter. So what they had to do to circumvent this, to allow people to play in their local FNMs and up to GP level, was give people PlayStations and other things that were worth money. Things that you might say have a secondary market value, some might say. And what happened was, I found forum anecdotes, people call them GP Best Buy. Because the point is, you walk away if you win with 6 PlayStation 4s, which obviously isn't as good as their monetary value on the secondary market, because you still got to sell the bloody things. So nowadays, and for quite a few years now, I don't know when the last GP or a big event in Germany is, not even GP, but people have them in the countries next door. There's still events, of course, in Belgium and France and stuff like that, even though I don't know if they're geographically next door, because my geography is awful. But the countries around them have loads of events, and Germany, not so much. They have smaller events, and there is a tournament scene, and there is a community, but they can't have the big events like the GPs because they can't offer the prize pool.
Right. And it's interesting, too, to note that in my just looking at forums, I saw from Magic players in Germany, and obviously everyone's different, but people just didn't care to play in a GP to win a bunch of PlayStations, even though you could resell those. People wanted the money. And
but look at it this way: you're going to a GP to win money. I've been to many a European GP, right? But if I flew to Germany to play in a German GP, and let's say hypothetically I wasn't a scrub and I won, now I've got 5 PlayStations to take on a plane back with me. It's just so impractical.
And even never mind the transport of them back, but also the incredible hassle of having to sell them, deal with fees. What if someone buys and runs and reads chargeback? It's just so much worse than getting paid. I mean, this is what we pay at GPs cosplayers in as Magic product, and stuff like that. And they hate that because they don't get money. They just get a whole bunch of boxes that they have to deal with selling. But that's another episode about, that. Secret Layers, though. Secret Layers.
But which one, Brian? I can't think of any secret layer that has been even remotely contentious. What secret layer are you referring to?
The secret layer that was announced with somebody was sitting in the chair you normally sit in, where it was announced.
You have a YouTube channel?
Oh my goodness, he took the thing and then did the switcheroo on it. Oh yes,
Look
yes. Yes, I have a YouTube channel where Wizards comes and I sell out. I bow down before them.
You shill very hard. The moment I can't come to America, you start shilling. I need to be there. You're like, no, Brian.
No, don't chill. Don't chill. It wasn't.
You go for the Watsy bucks. I'm like, no points. And
It
like,
wasn't.
Okay, you are right.
It wasn't shilling because I didn't get paid. It wasn't shilling because I didn't.
That's quite a
get
common
paid.
thing with Wizards promotions. But are you telling me that the box for Secret Lair fetch lands isn't worth the $200, $300, Brian? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, here's what I'm telling you. I'm telling you that what they have done is they've actually given a court of law. I'm not a lawyer, but they seem to have given a court of law what could be construed as really good evidence that Magic the Gathering is perhaps violating some gambling laws, or that Wizards of the Coast is violating some other laws, because you could say to them that, and I did this again in one of my videos, I think you probably did in one of yours, everybody did. Mm-hmm. It's plain as day. It's not like some big insightful thing. Secret Lair, Secret Lair, $29.99 for 5 lands. Secret Lair, $29.99 for 5 lands. Secret Lair, $200 for 5 lands.
And that's the insulting thing is it was Secret Lair fetch lands, and this
Right.
is why I did another video on it. Then it was Godzilla lands, which aren't even are foil, so they're arguably harder to produce in theory, right? 'Cause you
Right.
have to foil the bloody things.
Well, that doesn't.
Like, literally one after the other, and one is like so much cheaper. In my video, I said it was the most insulting thing I think Wizards of the Coast have ever done to their customer base. But yeah, it's crazy.
That's
Literally
a high
crazy.
bar. That's a high bar. I don't know. I
know.
personally, I think that deluxe edition, boy, it's hard, but I might say that deluxe edition is at least I could resell the Secret Lair fetch lands and maybe get my money. Like they're going to be worth on the secondary market an amount probably equal to what these things sell for. I can get money back. That deluxe edition, it had a uncut foils sheet. I can't sell that for anything.
No,
it
so
had
I agree
a
with you.
non-foil promo of the buy a box.
There are worse products, but I think Secret Lair fetch lands is the biggest insult because it so obviously points to the fact that the fetch lands are worth money and need to be reprinted. Some might say desirable.
Yeah.
Some might say they might fetch, like you said, a price on the secondary market. It points to that and goes, oh, well, we're just going to sell them to you for the higher price tag anyway. Then they also veiled it in the whole let's support LGSs with it.
Yeah.
Which is the one thing you didn't want to do with the product that's selling the cards that people need the most to play Eternal formats. Literally the most. Barring perhaps a copy of Luris now, which is a whole different episode, obviously.
Yes. Some might also just say that this is them saying, yes, these cards have value, and yes, we will sell them for that value, which is in violation. I think if we circle all the way back to the beginning of this video, it sounds like in violation of what they have spent 20 plus years trying to purposely make hazy in the law. And they go, well, we don't know that there's a secondary market. Then the question is why are these $200? And the answer is the box is bigger. And that is the laziest answer. Like that box being bigger is the answer is absurd. I'm surprised they didn't pack it full of a bunch of jank with art and say like, well, it's 200 cards and 5 of the 200. Yeah, it was
they can
just.
claim they're more collectible because of the new art as well, right? They're the two things. If we're honest, they're the two things. But you are right. I feel they're flying very close to the sun.
Yeah.
I want to disagree with you because I think it make for a better conversation, but I can't. They are so close to the sun, and it is dangerous because if they get slammed for this, then that opens up a door where booster packs start getting like investigated, like loot boxes have been happening in Europe. Then we might get a situation where like draft boosters cannot be produced anymore. Like it's got genuine ramifications that might damage people's enjoyment of the game down the line. This isn't just like they'll get slapped on the wrist and fined. It could change fundamentally how they sell Magic product to us. And personally, at the moment, barring the crappy Secret Lair over expensive fetchline stuff and the bad reprint policies, I quite like the booster model. Maybe that's Stockholm Syndrome, I don't know.
No, I like the booster model too, and I'm going to talk about, we're going to circle back around to some thoughts on morals and ethics with that in a moment. But when you say flying too close to the sun, I think you really nail it. And this is them risking everything for a short-term profit. And we've seen them do this a lot more recently, but nothing as enormous as this, because this isn't going to like put Magic the Gathering out of business. But if someone in some government starts to get the attention of booster boxes and begin investigating, or an actual lawsuit gets thrown about, look at what happened with judges. They were absolutely in violation of the law, because regardless of how it is on the books, they had employees. Well, those weren't our employees. Yes, they were. That were pertinent to them running the game, and they were paying them in paper and giving no support that you are legally obligated to give to those employees. And finally, several someones sued them, And that's when they said, we are done with this because we can get our butts handed to us. Now, Channel Fireball, in particular, and other events that hold them, those are their employees. And they will have to treat them as employees. And they will have to follow the letter of law. We don't touch judges. And they would say to me right now, we never touched judges. Well, they did. The same thing could happen with booster packs. And look at, by the way, I might point out, I don't want to put on the tinfoil hat, but have you noticed that Wizards of the Coast has moved sharply away from the booster pack model? The booster pack used to be the center of this game. Now it is like, it's almost like it's a product of many. When they make new products, they don't include booster packs or the idea of randomness in them. Isn't it interesting that commander decks are preset?
There is a shift.
For new players, now here's something that I noticed. Everybody, because since I have to review everything, I do pay attention to those dumb little new player products. A lot of Magic players that goes right under their radar, and understandably so. But something I want to point out to people is that in the old days, they had versions of starter decks for new players, and these starter decks were based on the booster pack, where you would get a starter deck or tournament deck that was like 3 booster packs worth of cards mashed together, but there was still a randomized element to it. You were still getting rares within them and things like that. And now when I get a starter deck as a new player at Walmart for an incredibly high price or something like that, it is not randomized. It is preset. And in fact, and there's no booster pack included. And wouldn't you think if the booster pack is the center of Magic the Gathering, that they would be like, well, you got to let these kids experience a booster pack, get them hooked young. That used to be the joke we'd always say about this stuff. But there's no booster packs in Commander decks. There's no booster packs in anything anymore except deck builders toolkits. And that's and that's really the last thing. And before you say Planeswalker decks, which came with 2, they have discontinued those this summer as the last batch of Planeswalker decks.
No one cared about those things, Brian.
But why wasn't a Planeswalker deck a randomly put together amalgam of rares and uncommons with this high duty sorting technology they now have?
Sure. I mean, but there's always been a long tradition of like intro packs, and like the starter decks weren't randomized, but tournament packs were meant to be the things you played sealed events with and stuff, right? There's always been a tradition of both. And I don't think, as much as I do think there's been a shift, I don't know if we're moving away from draft boosters. So, for example, we've got Jumpstart coming up, which is literally mashing of randomized booster packs together, right?
True,
and then also, they're about to move Commander to Commander boosters with Commander Legends, right?
Because it's Commander Masters. It's Commander Masters.
Commander Masters. But I guess this just highlights how good the booster model is for monetizing their game. They're like, Commander's making loads of money, mainly on the secondary market because these cards are getting expensive. How do we do that? I guess we just randomly put them into packs.
Sure, that's fair. That's a very good point, actually. I hadn't considered that. Yeah.
Exactly, but I think they are fully aware they can make good bank and good money out of booster packs, and we're going to see more of that. The other thing we didn't talk about that has just occurred to me as you're saying these things, it just made me think, is that a lot of the games that we've talked about today, like, I guess with FIFA and Star Wars and stuff, the ones that really got slammed in Europe were the ones where the packs had game pieces in them. Like, you have to open your Wayne Rooney or whatever footballer you need to play with. Meanwhile, other games that have kind of gotten away with it or have become less, like, hammered for this are the ones where they're selling skins and cosmetic upgrades, right? Is Magic's booster pack model, is Magic's gambling model the pay-to-win model, where you have to crack packs to find the cards? And Arena is definitely that way.
Yes.
Because without wildcards, you cannot play, and you can't accumulate wildcards in any sort of capacity without cracking packs en masse. So it's not like we're in some games where, like, for example, I play a lot of League of Legends. I like opening up little like capsules they give you every level to get skin shard, to get skin. Cosmetic. I can still play with the characters I want. Magic, it's not cosmetics. I guess the Secret Lairs is cosmetics. And
and this is why I say yes. Secret Lairs, collector's boosters, things like that. This is getting into it's just cosmetic, and this is where I think they have crossed over. I think it's very, as we said earlier, easy to argue that just what they've done all these years with the booster pack model, they were able to skirt the law and stay off the radar, but now they are seeing how far they can go, and they've gone very far. And the Secret Lair saying, we're going to look at this card that is selling on the secondary market for $50, and we're going to offer a version of it in a new skin for $50 or for 10% less than $50 perhaps, is, I feel, them crossing the line. And whereas I would argue that I don't ethically have a problem with booster packs as a product for kids to buy and things like that, and that yes, it is gambling. There is a form of gambling attached to it, but it isn't so severe. There's a spectrum, and I do think that Secret Lair may have finally crossed into that. Certainly, player reaction is more tied to the fact that they want fetch lands reprinted in booster packs, but I think that if we put that ire aside and look at what they've done from a legal sense in terms of similarities to loot boxes and such, that we have crossed into a very bad territory.
So, yeah, we are in agreement that like Secret Lairs are them flying close to the sun, them acknowledging the secondary market, just like not explicitly saying if there is one, but they're winking at us and pointing at it, right? However, isn't Secret Lairs, going back to that talk we had earlier about it being predatory, it's a very strong word. And I mean, gacha toys, the little pop captures you get that are randomized in boxes, I don't think they're predatory. I don't think actual boosters are that predatory. Surely, if we are moving towards them offering us cosmetics directly, like Secret Lair, isn't that the least predatory? Isn't that the most ethical? Because we know what we're getting. We know what product we're getting. I think the whole not reprinting fetch lands is a whole different conversation to that. But isn't getting the actual like cosmetic changes on a plate in Secret Lair more ethical than the collector's boosters, where I've opened some of those for videos on this channel, and I've opened complete trash. So I've not got my money back. I've gambled, and I have lost, and people have lived vicariously through me. I recommend you that. Subscribe to youtube.com/PresidentKenobi.
You have a YouTube channel? You have a YouTube channel? My goodness, congratulations.
Collector's boosters are on that predatory side. Secret Lair, when being cosmetic, being able to get your Godzilla lands, arguably there should be more than one of each basic land, obviously. But having the cosmetic be upfront and buyable, like on Arena in many ways, you can buy the cosmetic upfront. That's not predatory because there's no gambling element, barring Arena pretending gems.
There's no gambling element, but the element is they're printing their own money and that they are manipulating they're controlling the market, as it were, because if they were not allowed to sell you 5 fetch lands for $200, if it was if their lawyers said no to them on that, they would have reprinted them. So, but then they said, of course they would have reprinted them because then that's the only way to monetize them. So they are choosing. If you believe that they didn't reprint fetch lands in Zendikar because of standard, then I got a bridge to sell you. Because they absolutely did not reprint them in a $4 booster when they knew that they were going to try and sell them to you for market price. And this is going to affect how they are controlling the market. And it is an artificial scarcity. Yep. And so this is where we get into...
there is a real scarcity, but they're the ones in control of that.
There are fetch lands in Standard. Hello, Fabled Passage is a fetch land. So this is a lie. If they say, well, Standard can't have fetch lands, then... That is not true.
I'm in agreement with you. I think
even I know that
the whole boosters being potentially predatory and cosmetics not being. There's a weird irony here, right? So hear this out. If fetch lands were readily available, if Wizards of the Coast would sell them to us in reprints regularly in booster packs so the prices were lower down, when they sell us a $400 box with special art ones, let's say they've got, I don't know, the Powerpuff Girls on them, right, and that's cross promotion, right? And people want them for $300 and buy them. That is then, in a court of law, going to look less like gambling.
Right.
These things are readily available in a way that people can get hold of, but they can buy the cosmetic for more. The fact that the cosmetic version is so expensive, but still might work out a better deal than buying these randomized things by cracking from packs, is that... Well, they don't, do they? They don't work out.
It's not a cosmetic version anymore. It's not a cosmetic if there's no main version.
Exactly.
They're just selling the main version.
So I generally think... They would be running less of a risk to reprint the desirable cards to get their price down. I'm not saying crash them to pennies, but I'm saying make them affordable for the average player. That would make them less dangerous for them if and when a inquiry comes to look at the gambling laws on loot boxes and boosters and things.
Right. I agree completely. I also think you make more money because I believe that just as and the worst thing is everybody who's saying like boycott Secret Lair Ultimate Edition is not being realistic, because if Deluxe Edition sold out, ladies and gentlemen. They sold 1 million copies of that thing. That was not an unlimited printing, and they made a fortune on that. And that
product was garbage.
I believe in my role as the product review guy, that might be the worst product they've ever sold, and the most insulting in my opinion.
Exactly.
It's sold out. It's sold out. So if you think that you're going to be able to boycott Ultimate Edition, people, it's all sold. And on Wizards' end, it's all sold. But here's what Wizards doesn't get. They could still have sold out. They could have sold out for more. And all they had to do was put the fetch lands in the old art in the $4 booster packs. And they would have sold more booster packs. They would have made more money. And the community would not have been as ticked off with them. And they wouldn't be skirting legality or morality issues. It's just astonishing to me that they didn't feel that enough was enough. And this is where I think about Arena, where Magic Online, and again, we don't know because they keep this stuff covered up, but there's lots of things you can look at to indicate that Magic Online in all of its state was a huge moneymaker for them. Even in its sad interface state. It was just huge moneymaker for them. And so you don't have to have these predatory tactics that Arena employs to make money. Arena could have said, all right, you can trade cards with one another. One gem is equal to one ticks is equal to $1. All of this stuff, and the Arena would still be crushing it in profits, but maybe not as much.
It's corporate greed.
It's corporate greed. Corporate greed. It's not corporate greed. Corporate greed is Magic Online. Magic Arena is corporate beyond greed. I think it's okay for a corporation to be. It's not okay, but I think it's like they're all going to be greedy. It's beyond that. What's the next level? What's the next illegal, I guess, and that's what I think we're getting into. I think we are literally skirting the law here.
So it happened in the AAA's game industry as well, right? Games companies like Blizzard and Valve and EA, all these companies that have been slapped about because of the loot box issues, they were making money hand over fist.
Right.
They were making huge amounts of profits. And the thing is, to go into the predatory thing, to hunt the whales, to tick those boxes of gambling addictions in people's heads, those things made even more money. It's not enough for a AAA games company to make the money. They have to make all the money. And that's what we've seen with the move towards, I want to say obfuscating, but I can't pronounce it. Is that how you pronounce it? Obfuscating?
I'll give you a pass.
Okay, cool. They're obfuscating the currency that you're using, all these stupid tactics.
Right.
That's just allowing them to make more money. It is greed, but greed to like the nth degree. And we've seen it in the games industry in other areas, and we're just seeing it replicated now.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't have any problem with Wizards wanting to make a profit, wanting to make more money, wanting to come out with something that everybody's going to want to buy. That's greed. But this is beyond that. And it's the sort of thing that also makes me where even when I've gone in and out of my love of Arena, and I've gone in and out of my I never loved Secret Layers. I begrudgingly acknowledged my stance on Secret Layers has been these make me uncomfortable, but there's a good deal for the consumer. So I've given out a lot of A's on Secret Layers begrudgingly because it's like, well, damn, it's a good deal for us, which is exactly what they're doing. They're looking directly at the market and they're saying, cool, we'll give you new art for 20% less and we'll throw in some tokens. I love how quickly they abandoned all those little throw-ins. Like, remember Bitter Blossom came with the panorama of tokens and they're like, screw it. Now it's just the fetch lands, nothing else.
You're meant to get a code to get you the cards on Magic the Gathering Online. Because don't forget, I previewed one of
You don't get the lands. You don't get the Godzilla lands.
But I bought the Thalia one because I play Thalia in like every format,
right.
And I was like, I assume we'll get the Modo code, right?
Right.
It comes, I check the small print, no Modo code. They don't even cut those things out.
But that's because you play Thalia on Modo, so they're not going to give it to you on Modo. Right. They'll do that. But I love that the Godzilla lands, you do not get access to the lands on Arena. With the Arena code, you just get access to a sleeve skin. Now, if you got access to the Godzilla land for the rest of eternity, you could put those lands in your deck and use them and stuff, but they're going to sell those to you instead.
Oh, definitely, exactly. You got to buy it again. And again, it's the whole thing. It's the whole cow, right? It's the whole. I keep saying it's the whole cow. They can't give you a full package. If they can cut it up and sell it to you in different ways, they will. They will 100%.
Yeah. And
okay.
Yeah.
I've got a hypothetical for you.
Okay, hit me.
Let's say that the inquiries. Oh, I wanted to mention one thing, by the way. In my research, I was looking at like what European countries have done. Like Belgium was always said to have banned these loot boxes. They haven't banned them. They just found that everyone wasn't adhering to the current gambling laws, so they started like basically slapping fines on people, which is kind of like banning them because they all stopped trying to sell them. So, in a future hypothetical where these inquiries happen and it's found out that booster packs are breaking gambling laws because they go, well, you know what, there is a secondary market. You can pretend there isn't, but there literally is. We can see it, right? And they no longer can sell boosters because it costs them too much money in terms of legal fees. They can't get the right licenses, so on and so forth. What is the future of Magic? where could it go? Living card game, digital only? What do you think? Do you have any idea where Magic could go if they could not do randomized boosters anymore?
I don't think that we would ever hit that. But what they would do is living card game wouldn't work. What they would do, gosh, I guess what they would do is maybe try. Can't do randomized. If you can't do randomized, what are you going to do? Sell so many products that people have to buy them to piece together what they need from those products?
Like, if you need 4 Uros, and there's just like 4 decks that have an Uro in them, because it's a living card game with no list, that's all they've got.
Right.
Or you buy a set of them, there's no secondary market at that point, right? So I'm asking you what Wizards would do, but I mean, I
think it would put them out of. I think that would be a death blow. I think that if the law. Well, first of all, there's no way the law would be global. It's like Belgium would say the law, and then Magic just wouldn't do business in Belgium.
Exactly, but I'm asking you about America. Like, once America catches up with everyone else and goes, oh yeah, sorry, Belgium,
if America
the UK,
caught up with
it.
Yeah. It would be a death blow. They would have to. Here's what they do. I'll offer you a rebuttal. I'd say they can't survive like that. They just can't. They can't. The model won't work. What they would do is they would eliminate rarity. They would do it differently. They'd eliminate rarity. They would create. They would figure out how to do this without the sense of rarity in packs. So
the cards would still be randomized, and the cards would still be worth of real world money, right?
Right.
Like,
here's another one. Here's another one. What they do? They would aggressively reprint. They would never go to a living card game. They would say, "We will destroy the secondary market." They would aggressively reprint, like fetch lands at common, things like that, to the point that all cards are worthless. And if all cards are worthless, there's nothing you're gambling for.
And that's kind of where. That's still a dream, right? The idea that they reprint so aggressively that every available card, or the majority of available cards that you can play with in Modern, Pioneer, Standard, or whatever, cost pennies to play with. However, they can then sell you a secret lair every other Monday that has a cosmetic version of Euro or whatever in it. Because the point I'm getting at, I guess, is that no Magic card should be just £100 base value. Like, your alpha Birds of Paradise can be hundreds, thousands, right?
Right.
But the default Birds of Paradise should never get even anywhere near that amount. So in some ways, what you just said to me, I'm like, if that is the way it goes, that sounds great. But
right, but here, and that's the other thing too, is that let's say in this hypothetical that in them doing that then makes it so that there's no legal case against them. So they go, they're like, okay, the jaws are closing in on us. What we have to do is aggressive reprints to the point that, cards are just not worth anything. But everybody has access. They're not a living card game level, but all cards are $1 to $20, right? Like Richard Garfield actually is in this famous interview where he says he doesn't believe any card should be allowed to be worth more than that. That's needed to play the game, just cosmetic versions of them, sort of thing. And so they go, we got to do that. So here's the thing about all this. If in that hypothetical that gets the law off their back, then what we're literally saying here is that Wizards would just reprint the goddamn cards. They wouldn't even be violating these laws or ethics. It's just like, it's amazing how much this is win-win. And you're saying they could still sell the stupid overpriced cosmetics to the stupid obsessive players like myself who would buy them. Although I'm not buying Secret Lair. I had it in my office and did the reveal video, and I can't even afford to, nor do I have any desire internally, because it sickens me, to buy the damn thing. And it's just, just reprint the damn cards.
For some transparency.
It's just 7 years. I've been doing this YouTube channel for 7 goddamn years, and all I've been saying for 7 years is just reprint the damn cards, and they don't want to do it. And I'm just losing my mind at this point.
For some transparency, this scenario, this ending, like we're coming to, where Prof says just reprint them, it's a win-win. That was never our concluding argument. We haven't, because it sounds too succinct, too perfect. Because we came into this with doing our own research, having some bullet points, and that was it. So just anyone who sat at home going, this was their roundabout all the way, that was not it. But that has come to I can't express how I'm sat here laughing.
And remember, if you go back and you look at us talking about so magically we got to fix our favorite formats, and we were talking about this in a previous episode. I'm like, Vince, you love Legacy. What do you need to make this work? And you're like, I just need them to reprint the cards so people can play. And we're like, Modern, I just need them to reprint the cards so people can play. And it just comes down to this. It's like self-sabotage.
Yeah.
It's like self-freaking-sabotage. All right, I want to get back on track, though, with what I did want to close with, which is us talking about things from purely an ethical or moralistic standpoint. Do you have a problem with? And I want to know, Vince, do you have a problem? And then you can ask me, do you have a problem with the fact that booster packs are gambling? I mean, it is. You can't say a booster pack isn't a form of gambling. Buying a booster pack is a form of gambling. Do you have a problem with that?
No, I really don't. Like, I find it hard to say why, because obviously there's this idea that it can prey upon the vulnerable is like the biggest fear of having anything be remotely gambling. But like I said, gacha machines, where all this begins with, the little toys and the little bubbles, like, you know, those sort of things, that's a form of gambling, right? Kinder Surprise toys, you can't have them in America because they're illegal, apparently, because your kids just swallow the egg.
Because we Americans, we would just stuff it in our mouth and choke. I'm sorry,
fools.
but you know what?
But
at first I thought it was just an accident, but then I kept doing it again and again when my friends brought those Kinder eggs home
going
from Europe,
to A&E,
and I said it's a good thing.
Bomb. Anyway, so I think a small amount of gambling in a game, a small amount of risk to reward, is not inherently harmful or inherently a problem, especially when there's a transparent element to it. Like, ultimately, Wizards of the Coast aren't pricing these cards themselves, right? Because here's one of the things with loot boxes in video games, is that when you have a skin that costs £1 million in a digital card game, that's because they're only giving out 1 in a million times, right? The cards aren't that rare in Magic, unless they don't reprint them, which goes back to the point we just said, right? So if they reprint them enough, then the cards aren't inherently going to be these, like, $1 million lottery ticket sort of thing. So ultimately, no. If they make it transparent, they make like the chance of getting cards transparent, they make the cost of the packs transparent, which is something that video games and arenas veering away from, then no, I think a small amount of risk reward, or a small amount of gambling, as it were, I'm saying that children should be able to gamble now, a small amount of gambling, as it were, isn't inherently a problem, especially when it can be moderated properly. Like, if your mum walks in and sees you click a button that says you're buying a pack for a certain amount of gems, your mother has no idea how much money you've just spent. And that is a problem.
Right.
Where if your mum sees you handing over some dollars at the game store, or even just buying packs from your game store's website with like an on-screen, they can see what you're spending. When it's hidden and when it's not transparent, that's when the problems arise. So, no, I don't have a problem with it. But
I'm actually really surprised when you say that countries like yours and mine didn't just make a law. It's because our legal systems, they're all 80, 90-year-old people who do not understand what's going on, probably. And also they don't care about the citizenry. That's another episode. No, it isn't. But I'm really surprised that they don't just say, fine, you can't have gems and such. You just have to say, this is what it is, $sign.
So
and then let's see what happens when in order to buy sleeves. Yeah, is that happening?
Yeah,
good.
so like,
I think it should.
So France is a good example. I read that France have said it's not gambling by legal definitions, because a lot of these things that have monetary value, like let's say Arena, for example, the cards that have a monetary value, then therefore it cannot be gambling under their laws and literally what gambling is. However, it's still extremely problematic. And then France, England, and many other countries, including parts of America, certain states, have signed this like gambling legislation, like look-in form, saying it is a problem, and we need to understand like what's going on with loot boxes, and the cost of loot boxes, and those sort of strategies and things, which I think will eventually bleed through and affect Magic. It's only a matter of time. So yeah, countries are starting to become wise to it. You are right; it needs to be addressed.
Yeah. And I just think that if the company is going to take this attitude of short-term gains above all else, it just does not bode well for the future when that comes. Big deal. Q1 last year was amazing. Well, where are you in 5 years? And it just seems that slow and steady wins the race. And if we had just set this up more akin to Magic Online, that might have been a good thing. In terms of booster packs, I don't think there's anything really wrong with there being a little gambling. Listen, I like my vices. I drink alcohol. That's bad for you. I don't think it should be illegal. There are things that are becoming legal that I personally don't partake in that I think should be legal for people to enjoy. And I think that we can enjoy there being a little bit of gambling. I think the problem is when you go too far, and and when you cross into the realm of exploitative. And if there is some gambling involved to play a game, and like you've pointed out, cash is being spent, and we know how much cash is being spent, I feel that that's acceptable. But that when we cross into the realm of you don't know what's being spent, and
Chips,
or the
chips
realm.
in the casino, right? That's exactly
Chips
what they
in
do.
the casino is
are
part of it.
The gems are the chips in the casino. You get handed them, so you don't know
And
how much money
I believe they made the law that you have to put the dollar sign on those so you know how much they're worth. Used to be that you didn't.
Can you imagine arena gems? They just got little dollar signs in them. So.
Sure, that would be. Yeah, I would be very much in support of them having to do that, because they'd have to rethink their economy and maybe make some changes in favor of the customer. But also, I think that when we get to secret layers, that here's where it gets into the unscrupulous behavior, which is if the game were existing in a pure state of them just making the game, then yeah, we would have seen these reprints. And they are instead cloaking themselves in that premise. No, for the good of standard, we will not reprint fetch lands, except there are fetch lands in standard, and really it's for the good of being able to sell this secret layer at $200. And that's the difference. I don't mind fetch lands costing money if they get reprinted. I don't mind magic cards costing money if they get reprinted. But when we don't reprint them and then we sell them for 10 to 20% less than what they're going for, we are not only participating in artificial scarcity, and we have changed it into, I believe, unethical scarcity. And that's the line for me. And maybe that's arbitrary, but that's my line.
No,
and that's that's yeah.
No, I agree completely. I think that's the thing. Podcast episodes is better. Like I said, it's better when we disagree in some ways, but we agree so much here. But one of the things I want to add to that point, I guess, is
I don't agree that we agreed that much.
Okay. Wizards of the Coast need to be really careful, because whilst other games companies can just sort of like flirt with the boundaries of ethical and legal ramifications and eventually be like, oh, whoopsie, you caught us, the whole industry has to change, back to selling $40 to $60 games. Wizards of the Coast aren't doing that, because they don't go back to selling a different model. They go back to their booster packs. If their booster packs are being investigated, and the game is, like we said earlier, does the game survive if it can't do booster packs? They are living very dangerously, because they need to not be drawing attention to this sort of thing, and like you've been saying, is not create this scarcity that would then point out and highlight the idea that they could be gambling. They can't get away with it, is what I'm saying. Not that I'm saying it's a good defense, but they're never going to get away with it like the other companies will. They'll walk away and carry on with their business, which is the Coast business, like a house of cards. Some might say. Some might say a lot of this episode. Like a house of cards could tumble down if they get caught doing this sort of stuff, which they are literally doing right now.
I hope red lights went off with how the secret layer thing went over. It might mean that no one from Wizards of the Coast will ever come into my office again to reveal a product. But if that's the case, it's worth it, in that hopefully some red lights went off in terms of community reaction and perhaps legal ramifications. And maybe this will get reconsidered. But I don't know. So here's what I want to, this is not in our notes, but I want to close with this, Vince. What is the next worst, just exploitative secret layer? So we already did the fetch lands at $200. So what is the next level of it's not just like 5 basic lands for $30. What is the next, oh my God, they're doing 5 fetch lands for $200, where it's just what is that?
I've got one, but before I say it, I just want to say we sat in an episode maybe 8 months ago saying, I think I said, what's next after Deluxe Edition? What's next? What could they possibly do? And that was Secret Lair Fetch.
And now, we named it.
We're now sat here doing it again, and it scares me, because when will it end by? In 8 months' time, we go, well, that was bad. What's next?
Yeah.
My theory, okay, here's my theory, is that they go, this is really extreme. Do you want me to go as extreme as possible?
Within the confines of reality, okay. Yeah, that you could you could really still see them doing it.
Oh no. Okay.
What's the worst they could get away with?
Well, I was thinking they could print functionally better reserved list cards, but not print them into boosters, but only sell them directly to us. But that is
say they're like legal.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So they're not making the reserved list. We've now got like a forest, island, mountain that is untapped, all 3 types, fetchable. It's strictly better than Tiger, barring like choking cards like that. And they're like, oh, but these are only for collectors and the extreme collector. These are collector lands.
But you can play with them in Legacy.
Yeah, they're for Legacy players because they've got loads of money. But cards don't have a value, of course. And for Commander players, right? Or they're only legal in the formats like Commander and Legacy. But that's quite extreme, I think. But at the same time, I would have said that the Fetch Land Secret Lair was extreme 8 months ago. So maybe I'm being a typical YouTuber here and like going to the extreme. but I feel like my extreme was broken over the last few months, Brian. So I don't really... Do you have a more sensible option, or is that...
Yeah, I do, and I'm going to cheat in that I think I casually said this before as a bit of a joke, but I'm going to really double down on it as this is what I see happening, which is that they're going to do away with the reserve list and reveal Vintage Masters in paper, but Vintage Masters will not have the original dual lands in it. So they're going to do vintage, just like they did Modern Masters without fetch lands. They're going to do Vintage Masters, and it'll have like a Black Lotus and some Moxen for Vintage, but it's not going to have dual lands for Legacy and stuff like that. And so that's my thing. And they'll say, oh, well, it wasn't the right place for it. It'll have like some guild gates or whatever.
But then they can go the other way around. They can go Legacy Masters with jewels and be like, oh, not the right place for the vintage cards. And they got they're just printing a black.
Yeah,
Lotus.
but no. That one people are okay with because the truth is that people would rather play Legacy than Vintage. I think people would be more interested in Legacy over Vintage. I think that even getting access to some really expensive Moxen, because even if they reprint the Moxen at Mythic, they're probably going to be outrageously expensive still, especially if it's just one reprinting at Mythic in a limited print run product. And I think that what vintage decks would still end up costing, people aren't going to get into it, but people would get into Legacy tomorrow if they just had the duels. People wouldn't get into Vintage tomorrow if they had Amox. But they would get into Legacy tomorrow.
I can't do my budget deck tech series on my channel because the bloody fetch lands are too expensive. I can cut the jewels from the deck, Brian, but people can't get into Legacy because the fetch lands are too expensive. We are living in the weirdest, not even the weirdest, just the saddest of like timelines when it comes to reprints.
Timelines, yes. All right. Well, if you'd like to stay in the saddest timeline, make sure you stay subscribed to Tolarian Community College. Or, as I just found out for the first time ever, Vince began a YouTube channel.
Yes.
So we're going to wish him good luck. You might go over, see if he's making some work. Where can they find you, Vince?
YouTube.com/Pleasant Kenobi is where the magic happens. I also stream regularly 2 to 3 times a week.
You should put that on a t-shirt, where the magic happens.
Yeah, and it's like a picture of a bed. Because that's the innuendo. Is that ruin the innuendo? I don't know. I also stream at twitch.tv/Pleasant Kenobi. Not Magic. I was going to say Magic the Gathering. That's the official one. Pleasant Kenobi. 2 to 3 times a week.
They don't let you on that one.
I've been on there, and I did say we print fetch lands, you cowards. I know. I was such a bad boy. Also, Twitter as well. I'm pretty active on Twitter with the memeing and the milking and things.
So, in the spirit of today's episode, I'm going to end with a bet. Vince, you want to make a bet with me?
That's gambling, Brian.
Yes, and the bet is this. Will the next episode of Dies to Removal be out before the next Secret Lair?
Huh. No.
Mia of Wizards R&D, what are you doing in my office?
I'm the White Mana Guru. Whenever someone loses faith in white, I magically appear.
That must keep you pretty busy.
Silence!
Oh my goodness, you exiled Brian.
Yep, gonna get a lot of high fives back at the mothership for that.